Welcome to Afrosphere. Today, in what we call chainsaws of silence, we turn our gaze to the deforestation of Mozambique, the third installment in a series that peels back the rotten layers of betrayal that led to the nationwide protests ignited by the fraudulent election of October 2024. But let the record show, the uprising did not begin at the ballot box. It began in the belly. It began in the dust-blown villages where hope has been bartered away by men in suits and uniforms. In our first installment, we trace the veins of corruption that bleed through every artery of public life. A sustained and systematic transfer of wealth from the calloused hands of the poor to the silken palms of the Frelimo fat cats. In the second, we exposed the Maputo model of plunder, a modern Berlin conference without Europeans, where Frelimo oligarchs gathered not to liberate the land, but to carve it up like meat, each man claiming his fiefdom while the people starved. Every people has a breaking point. It can come in a scream or a whisper, in fire or in floods. It can come slowly, like water gathering behind a cracked dam, or all at once, a roar of fury when the dam finally gives way. In Mozambique, that breaking point came in the days and weeks after the fraudulent election of October 2024. But let it be said clearly and without apology, the election was not the cause of the uprising. It was merely the trigger. The real cause lies deeper. In the soil, in the forest stumps, in the hollowed schools and empty stomachs of a nation bled dry. The people of Mozambique did not rise up because of a single stolen vote. They rose because of a stolen country. Because the same hands that rigged the ballot boxes have, for years, been stripping the land bare, felling trees, selling off timber, gutting public coffers, and stuffing their own pockets with the proceeds. The so-called leaders in Maputo, the Frelimo fat cats who speak the language of revolution but live like monarchs, have presided over the quiet looting of an entire nation. From the forests of Niassa to the mangroves of Zambezia, the wealth of the rural poor has been siphoned off and shipped abroad, to Chinese ports, to offshore accounts, to luxury homes that rise as schoolhouses crumble. This is not just about stolen trees. It is about the structural theft of dignity, sovereignty, and hope. They call it logging, as if that antiseptic word can anesthetize the brutal truth of what is happening in Mozambique. They call it an industry. But what industry produces nothing, builds nothing, feeds no one, and leaves only the silence of birds that no longer sing? They speak of economic partnerships with Beijing, but in the quiet corners of Zambezia and Niassa, where mothers feed their children boiled roots from forests that have fed generations, there is no partnership. There is only plunder. Let us not mince words. The deforestation of Mozambique is not a symptom of development. It is a crime, slow, systematic, and soaked in betrayal. A betrayal by the so-called political elite in Maputo, who wrap themselves in the colors of liberation while selling their country to the highest bidder. That bidder, more often than not, is Chinese. The plunder pipeline, from forest to port to container ship, Mozambique, with its 40 million hectares of forest, once one of the most biologically diverse and ecologically essential systems in southern Africa, has become an open wound. The felling of trees here is not for local carpenters or even national furniture makers. It is not to furnish classrooms or rebuild cyclone-damaged homes. No, these trees are stolen wholesale, loaded onto trucks, driven to ports like Beira and Nacala, stuffed into containers, and shipped, raw, unprocessed, straight to Asia, with China as the primary destination. According to a landmark report by Chatham House, over 48% of Mozambique's timber exports are illegally harvested. Global Witness goes further, calling the Mozambican timber sector a kleptocratic casino, where political elites in Maputo collude with Chinese companies to siphon off millions in bribes while forests vanish. C4 data confirms that from 2007 to 2017, Mozambique lost over 2.2 million hectares of forest, and the pace is accelerating. This is not trade. This is expropriation. Fat cats in the capital, empty classrooms in the provinces. Here is the bitterest truth of all. While teak and rosewood logs, some centuries old, are shipped to faraway ports, children in rural schools in Sofala and Cabo Delgado sit on dirt floors. Desks? Benches? Chairs? These are luxuries in a country whose political class would rather auction mahogany to buy Mercedes-Benzes than ensure its future generations can read or write. A single mature hardwood log can fetch thousands of dollars on the Chinese market. That same log could be sawn and used to build school furniture for an entire district. Yet no such transformation occurs. Instead, what is produced in Mozambique is not value, not infrastructure, not prosperity, but absence, the absence of shade. The absence of animals, the absence of food, the absence of dignity. Who looks after the forests? And who profits? It is the rural poor who have guarded these forests for centuries. They are the ones who have lived symbiotically with the land, gathering fruit, harvesting medicinal plants, hunting for protein, grazing their animals in shaded glades. To them, the forest is not natural capital. It is life. It is memory. It is kin. Yet now, these same communities watch logging trucks roll past their villages, escorted by armed guards, carrying away what they have long depended on, without consultation, compensation, or benefit. It is a theft cloaked in bureaucracy, a form of ecological imperialism enabled by black faces in high places. This is Frelimo's betrayal, that the party once synonymous with liberation has become a broker for foreign plunder. Licenses are handed out like candy to Chinese companies whose only interest is extraction. No local mills, no sustainable replanting, no employment, just the sucking sound of wealth being drained from soil to sea. Forests as food, shelter, medicine. When you steal a forest, you are not just stealing trees. You are stealing homes. Rural Mozambicans use wood for everything. To build homes, to cook food, to stay warm. They gather wild tubers, fruit, and leaves for nourishment. They harvest medicinal bark to heal their sick. When these forests fall, it is not just an environmental crisis. It is a public health catastrophe. It is hunger in the belly. It is the funeral of resilience. And then there are the floods. Mozambique has become ground zero for climate-induced disasters. Cyclones Idai and Kenneth ravaged the country in 2019, killing thousands. But deforestation makes every natural disaster worse. Forests once acted as buffers, soaking up excess rainfall, anchoring the soil against erosion, moderating the fury of tropical storms. Now, the land is naked. The water comes fast. It sweeps away crops, homes, children. The villagers who once adapted to cycles of rain and sun now face cycles of calamity. Drought, flood, hunger, disease. And for what? So a minister's cousin can sign another timber license? So a Chinese conglomerate can erect a mansion in Guangdong lined with Mozambican rosewood? Deforestation as structural violence. This is more than environmental destruction. It is structural violence. It is the calculated dismantling of the material conditions necessary for life, done with the full awareness of those in power. It is the violation of health rights, of food rights, of education rights. It is, in short, a violation of humanity. And it is deliberate. Reports by Cyfor and Global Witness document how forest inspectors are underfunded, how fines for illegal logging go unpaid, how bribes ensure continued access. Even well-meaning NGOs are sidelined by a government more concerned with kickbacks than conservation. The logging industry, if we dare call it that, produces no products. It builds no wealth. It creates no middle class. It is a hollow funnel through which value passes but never settles. Questioning the language of plunder, we must interrogate the very language used to describe this looting. Industry, a term that implies manufacture, employment, progress. Yet Mozambique's so-called logging industry processes less than 8% of its exported timber. The rest leaves raw, untransformed, unrefined, unowned by the people whose land it came from. No value chain, no beneficiation, no local market development. This is not an industry. It is a clearance sale masquerading as policy. A bonanza for the few, a calamity for the many. When we call this devastation industry, we participate in the same linguistic anesthesia that permits the powerful to destroy with impunity. Let us call it what it is: organized ecological theft. From the bayonets of the past to the chainsaws of today, Mozambique did not fight a brutal anti-colonial war to become a supplier of raw materials to the next empire. Yet here we are, from the bayonets of the Portuguese to the chainsaws of the Chinese, with Frelimo as the middleman. If Samora Machel were alive today, would he recognize the party that bears his name? Would he not recoil at the sight of the forests, the same forests that sheltered Frelimo fighters? now desecrated to line the pockets of the new bourgeoisie, the revolution has been reversed. The comrades have become capitalists. The liberation has become liquidation. So where do we go from here? My people, let us not indulge in easy despair. The forests still breathe, some of them. The people still remember. There is time, if barely, to reclaim what has been lost and to salvage what remains. First, the Mozambican government must institute a total ban on the export of raw logs. No tree should leave Mozambican soil without being processed domestically. This is not radical, this is rational. Second, all licenses granted in the past decade must be reviewed, audited, and revoked where corruption is found, and corruption is found everywhere. Third, reforestation must be a national priority with communities at the center, not NGOs, not donor projects, but the very people who have suffered the loss. Fourth, rural schools must be furnished with wood from sustainable sources, not from corporate raiders. Fifth, and most painfully, a reckoning must come for Frelimo. The party must either purge itself of the rot that now infects its soul, or step aside and allow a new generation to lead. The ghosts of the forest. Mozambique's forests do not die quietly. Their spirits linger. Their absence echoes. And one day, if justice is not done, their ghosts will rise, not as metaphors, but as hunger, as storms, as the silence of vanished birds and starving children. This is not just a crisis of trees. It is a crisis of vision, a failure of memory, an abdication of morality. And so we ask, how many more logs will leave the country before Maputo awakens? How many more floods, famines, and funerals before the political class remembers who they were supposed to serve? Until then, we write, we remember, we resist. If you have found this content illuminating, please comment and let's keep the conversation going. Give us your thumbs up, share with your loved ones, and don't forget to subscribe. This will motivate us to provide you with more analytical content of this nature. Thank you for watching.